Hey guys, John here from Sonic Drive Studio. I hope you're all doing well and welcome back to the channel. Today is a really fun one because in this video we're going to compare 6 high gain amplifiers with my 9-string guitar. Quick disclaimer, I'm not just going to play the low strings and the low notes, so this video is not just for the folks who like all the low notes. I'm going to play every string on this guitar. However, all of the amps in this comparison were selected because of the fact that they have a tight low-end response and that they have enough gain and girth for high gain rock and metal. With an extended range guitar like this extreme 9-string guitar, it's especially important that the low end is tight and that there is enough clarity in the amplifier as well so that all the notes come through nicely, including the super low notes. And I'm also not going to use a boost pedal up front at all in this video, because honestly, all the amps in this comparison do not need it. So this guitar is the Schecter Damien Platinum 9-string. It's a really good guitar, I really like it. I recently did a full demo and review of this guitar on the channel, which I recommend watching up here or down here. And I like this guitar so much mainly because of the fact that it has a 30-inch scale length, because that really helps with the overall tone and clarity, especially on the lower strings. And it's also just a really well-constructed guitar. It sounds great and it plays great. Usually this model has the bat inlays across the neck, but I did make them go away. I did a special video on that also, by the way, which you can check up here or down here as well. But yeah, great guitar. And I also really like the ENGL 909 pickups. I think they sound absolutely great in this guitar. Anyways, I'm very curious to find out which amp responds and sounds the best together with this very extreme 9-string guitar. So I've made a selection of amplifiers that in my mind were capable of handling the range that this instrument has to offer. And we're going to check out the ENGL Fireball 100, the Victory Super Kraken VX100, the BluGuitar Amp1 Iridium Edition, the EVH 5153 50W EL34, the Boogie Mark 535, and the Marshall JVM 410H. Like I said, they all do high gain rock and metal really well. They're all great at that. But again, they all have a very nice and tight low-end response, which is very important for an instrument like this. Quick note on the signal flow for this video. All of the amplifiers, aside from the BluGuitar Amp1, are being fed into my RedSeven Amplification Amp Central Reactive load, and the BluGuitar is going into the 2-notes Captor X because of its special power section. All the amplifiers are going into York audio cabinets. And there's no post-processing on the guitars aside from a low cut at 80 Hz, just to make some room for the kick and bass. Okay, let's get started. Now, I wrote some riffs on this guitar especially for this video, and I tried to use all the strings, so not just the low strings and the low C sharp. It's an extended range guitar, so I wanted to treat it as such. So I'm going to use all the strings. I'm going to use single notes, muted chords, open chords, and all that good stuff. And first we're going to listen to this guitar through my ENGL Fireball 100, one of my go-to amplifiers for high gain metal. I really like this amplifier a lot, and I'm doing this one first so that it sort of functions as a baseline for all the other amps. I'm going to use the high gain lead channel, of course, with both the bottom and mid boost switches turned off. And this amp will be fed through the York 212 M65 cabinet on Mic Mix 01. Let's go ahead and take a listen right now. Here we go. That sounded quite nice. Now this amp has a sound that I'm very familiar with, and I think that it works really well with a guitar like this. So yeah, you can't go wrong with that amplifier basically. Now let's check out one of my more recent amps, the Victory Amplification Super Kraken VX100. And that's a high gain monster with a really unique and huge sounding tone. I'll use the gain 2 channel with the preamp focus turned on, and the preamp focus is basically a sort of built-in boost, kind of like a tube screamer. Now note that this amplifier does not have a presence control, so it's slightly on the darker side of the spectrum. So for this amplifier, I'm going to use a single SM57 cab IR from the York MES212 V30 package. The 57OA1 file to be exact. Let's go ahead and take a listen right now. Awesome! Such a huge and wide sounding mid-range, truly unique. And this amp also really works well together with this guitar, I think. It's a great match. And by the way, I recently did an in-depth demo and review of this amplifier on the channel as well, which you can watch up here or down here if you're interested. And now let's move on to perhaps the most unique and interesting amp of the bunch, the BluGuitar Amp 1 Iridium Edition. This 100 watt hybrid pedal-sized amplifier is absolutely awesome, and I love it a lot. I think it will do a great job with this extended range guitar, especially the modern overdrive channel, since that has a very tight low-end response. So it's a hybrid amplifier. Basically it's sort of solid state, but it does have a nano tube in the power section, and that does help to make it sound more organic indeed. And this one is going into the Captor X because of the special power section. I don't know if the RedSeven will be able to handle that, so that's why I'm using the 2 notes. And that's being fed into the York Audio MES412 OS cabinet on Mic Mix 01 as well. Here we go. It's truly impressive how great that little amplifier sounds, especially with the guitar that's so demanding when it comes to tone and response. Now, it's an amplifier that I'm pretty excited about, and I also did a full in-depth review and demo on the channel very recently, which you can watch up here or down here as well if you're interested. Let's now move on to an amplifier that's known for its tight low-end response and its huge amounts of gain. Of course, I'm talking about the EVH 5153 50-watt EL34. I love this amplifier. It has a great tone, as I said, plenty of gain and a nice and tight low-end response that I think will work really well with a guitar like this. I'm going to use the red channel because of the amount of gain and also the low-end response on that channel. And this amp is going through the York 5153 412 VH20 cab on the Mic Mix 01 as well. And that's in fact the actual matching cabinet for these amps. So it's a nice match indeed with a quite unique sound. So let's go ahead and check that out right now. Great tones right there. Nice and tight with plenty of gain and some hair up top. Kind of reminds me of that sort of brown sound, but a more modern version of that. But now let's move on to the Mesa Boogie Mark 535. And this amplifier is basically known for its tight and precise low-end response. And overall the mids tend to be a little bit more smooth than some of the other amps in this comparison. It's a very precise sounding amplifier, but it's not super aggressive by default, so I'm excited to see how it will sound together with this guitar. I'm going to use the extreme mode on channel 2 with the graphical equalizer enabled for a nice scoop, of course. It's basically essential for this amplifier to make it sound good for metal. And this amp will go through the York ZILA 212 BLND cabinet on Mic Mix 01. Here we go. That sounded pretty good as well. To be honest, I didn't think that it was the best sounding amp in this comparison so far. I guess that the low C sharp, those super low notes, are just a little bit too low for this amplifier. There's something about the mid-range as well that's just a little bit too polite for this guitar in my opinion. It still sounded pretty good though, so I'm being pretty picky here. It's just slightly too stuffy sounding in the mids and lower mids, despite the fact that I turned the bass and middle controls all the way down. But yeah, definitely not a bad amplifier. I mean, it's a great sounding amplifier, but perhaps not the most extreme one when you compare it to some of the other amps in this video. And now the final amp, the Marshall JVM 410H. An interesting and surprising choice perhaps for some of you, but to be honest, the Marshall JVM is actually a great amplifier for metal and especially for low-tuned guitars, because it has so much gain and a very nice tight low-end response. I'm going to use the OD2 channel on this amplifier. That's the most metal sounding channel on the amp. And I'm going to use the red mode. That's basically the most aggressive sounding mode on this amplifier. And I think that it will be very fitting for this guitar, so I'm excited to see how it sounds. Now this amp will go through the York Audio MRSH 412 M25 cabinet, also on Mic Mix 01. Let's go ahead and take a listen. Very nice! I think that the Marshall performed really well with this extended range 9-string guitar. Quite good indeed. Now let's go ahead and check out an isolated A-B back-to-back comparison of all the amplifiers side by side. Here we go. Interesting, right? Most of the amplifiers sound really good in their own way, and most of them perform really well together with this extreme 9-string guitar. Truly impressive. Of course, the fact that this guitar has a 30-inch scale and the active pickups and all that stuff really helps too. But still, I think that the amplifiers are doing a great job with this instrument. Now let's also check out an isolated A/B back-to-back comparison, but this time with all the amplifiers going through the same cabinet IR. And for this purpose, I'll use the York Audio MES412OS cabinet, which is a cab that just works well with a wide variety of amplifiers basically. I'm going to use Mic Mix 01 again. Now I personally prefer listening to the amplifiers with cabinets that work well together with the amplifiers, just so it makes them sound a bit more unique basically. Because in the end, combining an amplifier with a fitting cabinet and speaker is just really important for the tone. And in the end, we will all end up using different speakers with our amplifiers at home anyway. So perhaps look at the earlier portions in this video with the unique cabinets like, how does this guitar sound together with this amplifier paired with this cabinet versus this guitar through this amplifier with this cabinet. I hope that makes sense. Anyway, now let's check out that A/B back-to-back comparison with all the amplifiers going through that same cabinet. Here we go. Well, there you go. Of course, this comparison made them sound a little bit more similar to one another, although they still definitely have their own voice. And the Kraken sounds a little bit dark here, and that's a very good example of an amplifier that just needs to be paired up with the right cabinet, the right speaker, and for recording with the right mic and right mic position. And again, that shows why I prefer to listen to amplifiers with a speaker that works well together with the amplifier, basically. Just as how you would pair up your amplifier with a fitting speaker cabinet. So, which amplifier did you think performed the best here? This time it's a really tough choice. Some of my favorites were the BluGuitar Amp 1 Iridium Edition, the the Victory Super Kraken VX100, and the ENGL Fireball 100. But the others did great as well. They all sounded pretty good with this guitar. And I think that it also means that this guitar basically is just a really good sounding guitar, for my taste anyway. In this particular comparison, I guess my least favorite was the Mesa Boogie Mark 535, just in combination with this guitar, that is. I mean, it's a great amplifier and it sounds great usually with other guitars, but at the very least you can't go wrong with the 3 amplifiers that I just mentioned. But of course, I'd love to know your thoughts. Which one was your favorite and why? Let me know in the comments down below because I'd love to know. That's all for this video. I really hope you enjoyed it. If you did, please drop a like and a subscribe down below, as that really helps the channel out. I'd hugely appreciate that. And you can also follow Sonic Drive Studio on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. Thank you so much for watching, and I hope to see you guys very soon. Cheers!